So in this video, I want to talk about how to memorize sine, cosine, as well as tangent. Usually people use SOHCAHTOA to memorize it, but for my way it is different. For my way is to memorize geometric functions using its first initial letters. So which means for cosine, I use C for it. And for sine, I use S for it. And for tangent, I use T for it. And let's think about in terms of cosine at first. So let's talk about in terms of cosine at first. So we use C for it. And the important thing about this right triangle is that the location of a central angle, because it defines a locations of sine, cosine, as well as tangent. So for cosine, we use C for it, and we all have to remember is that we always start from a hypotenuse, and we'll go all the way down to the y. This is C for cosine initial value, and it always should near a central angle. This was C for cosine, C for initial value. So if we convert into a fraction, the starting line will gonna be a denominator and the ending line will gonna be a numerator. So it will going to be h in the numerator's ending line, which is y. Let's think about in terms of sine. So for sine, we use s for initial value of sine. And for s, we use also for s sine, we also start from a hypotenuse and we'll go all the way down to the x. And this is s for sine. So for this initial value of sine, we always start from a hypotenuse, which means h will gonna be a denominator and the x will going to be a numerator. And let's think about in terms of tangent. So tangent, we always use T for it, and the starting line will gonna be a line that is shared with a cosine, and it will go all the way up to the line that is common with a sine. It is T for initial value of tangent. So the starting line is Y, and the ending line is X. And all you have to remember is the importance and the location of a central angles. Let's go to a next example. Example 1. So at first, we can say that our central angle is 30 degrees right over here. Now let's think about in terms of cosine at first. C for cosine. As we have told, we always start from a hypotenuse, which is 2 in this case, and it will go all the way down. And it will going to be near a central angle. And this is C for initial value of cosine, C. So if you convert into a fraction, it will going to be starting line, which is 2 in this case, and the ending line, which is square root of 3. And this was cosine of 30 degrees, if I write this down again. So cosine of 30 degrees is same thing with square root of 2 over in the numerator, square root of 3. And this is C for initial value of cosine. Let's think about in terms of sine of 30 degrees in this case, where 30 degrees is a central angle. We use S for sine. He always starts from a hypotenuse and it will go all the way down to the height. This is S for sine initial value. So we will going to be a starting line, which is 2, and in the numerator, the ending line, which is 1. Let's talk about in terms of tangent. For tangent, we use T for initial value of tangent, and of 30 degrees, which is a central angle, we're going to be starting line. We're going to be a line that is common with cosine, which is square root of 3, and it will go all the way up. So it will going to be at first square root of 3, and in the numerator, the ending line, which is 1. So all you have to remember is that we use C for cosine initial value, S for sine initial value, T for tangent initial value. So let's go to our next example. So for the second example, the central angle turned into 6 degrees. And we also have to remember the importance of locations of central angles. Let's think about it in terms of cosine at first. We use C for initial value of cosine, and it is 60 degrees, which is a central angle, and it always starts from a hypotenuse. It is near a central angle. So it is start from the 2, and it will go all the way down to the 1. And this is C for initial value of cosine. So it will going to be at first the hypotenuse will going to be denominator, and in the numerator the ending line, which is 1. So let's think about in terms of sine. So for sine 6 degrees, it will going to be start from a hypotenuse, and it will go all the way down. This is S for initial value of sine. So you will start from 2, so we're going to be denominator in the ending line numerator, which is square root of 3. Now let's think about in terms of tangent. So for tangent of 60 degrees, it will going to be at first the starting line, the common with cosine, and it will all the way down to the line that is common with sine. So it will going to be 1 at first, and the square root of 3. Let's go to our last information, last thing. And here we know that 45 degrees turned into our central angle. So that means whatever will become a sine or cosine tangent, it starts from starts with a common, it's a central angle. So let's think about it in this way. So at first, let's think about a cosine of 45 degrees. It was going to be always starts from a hypotenuse, which is a central angle near, and it always starts from hypotenuse, and it will go all the way down, which will going to be 2 in the denominator, and numerator the ending line, which is square root of 2. So let's think about initial value of cosine. It is C. Let's think about in terms of sine of 45 degrees. The sine of 45 degrees will also start from a hypotenuse, and it will go all the way down. It will going to be is S for its initial value of sine. It is equal to the starting line 2 and the ending line square root of 2. It is exactly the same. Let's think about in terms of tangent. Tangent of 45 degrees is exactly the same thing with the starting line, the line that are common with cosine, and the line that are common with sine. So it will going to be at first square root of 2 in the denominator, and the numerator square root of 2. And this was the way how we memorize sine, cosine, and tangent. We use C for cosine initial value. We use S for sine initial value. We use T for tangent initial value.